We do not belong to the past dawns, but to the noons of the future.
India will certainly keep her essential spirit, will keep her characteristic soul, but there is likely to be a great change in the body. Her characteristic soul?
आख्याहि मे को भवान् उग्ररूपो नमोऽस्तु ते देववर प्रसीद विज्ञातुमिच्छामि भवन्तमाद्यं न हि प्रजानामि तव प्रवृत्तिम्.
Spirituality is the master key of the Indian mind. The sense of the infinite is native to it. India saw from the beginning that the physical does not get its full sense until it stands in right relation to the supra-physical. She saw that the complexity of the universe could not be explained in the present terms of man or seen by his superficial sight, that there were other powers behind. Other powers within man himself, of which he is normally unaware. That he is conscious only of a small part of himself. That the invisible always surrounds the visible. The suprasensible, the sensible. Even as infinity always surrounds the finite. She saw too that man has the power of exceeding himself, of becoming himself more entirely and profoundly than he is.
न हि प्रजानामि तव प्रवृत्तिम्. त्वमक्षरं परमं वेदितव्यं त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं निधानम्. त्वमव्ययः शाश्वतधर्मगोप्ता सनातनस्त्वं पुरुषो मतो मे. त्वमक्षरं परमम्.
She saw the myriad gods beyond man, God beyond the gods, and beyond God, His own ineffable eternity. She saw that there were ranges of life beyond our life, ranges of mind beyond our present mind, and above these, she saw the splendors of the Spirit.
Then, with that calm audacity of her intuition, which knew no fear or littleness, and shrank from no act, whether of spiritual or intellectual, ethical or vital courage, she declared that there was none of these things which man could not attain if he trained his will and knowledge.
He could conquer these ranges of mind, become the spirit, become a god, become one with God, become the ineffable Brahman. And with the logical practicality and sense of science and organized method which distinguished her mentality, she set forth immediately to find out the way.
Tvamasya vishwasya param nidhanam Tvamavyaya shashvata dharma gopta Sanatanastvam purusho mato me.
Spirituality is indeed the master key of the Indian mind, but that was not and could not be her whole mentality. When we look at the past of India, what strikes us next is her stupendous vitality, her inexhaustible power of life and joy of life, her almost unimaginably prolific creativeness. For 3,000 years at least, it is indeed much longer, she has been creating abundantly and incessantly, lavishly, with an inexhaustible many-sidedness, republics and kingdoms and empires, philosophies and cosmogonies and sciences and creeds, and arts and poems and all kinds of monuments, palaces and temples and public works, communities and societies and religious orders, laws and codes and rituals, physical sciences, psychic sciences, systems of yoga, systems of politics and administration, arts spiritual, arts worldly, trades, industries, fine crafts. The list is endless. and in each item there is almost a plethora of activity. She creates and is not satisfied and is not tired. She will not have an end of it, seems hardly to need a space for rest, a time for inertia and lying fallow.
She creates and creates.
European critics complain that in her ancient architecture, sculpture and art, there is no reticence, no holding back of riches, no blank spaces, that she labors to fill every rift with awe, occupy every inch with plenty. Well, but de facto no, that is the necessity of her superabundance of life, of the teeming of the infinite within her. She lavishes her riches because she must. As the infinite fills every inch of space with the stirring of life and energy, because it is the infinite.
India of the ages is not dead.
All that was in India's past is still dormant. It is not destroyed. It is waiting there to assume new forms.
The third power of the ancient Indian spirit was a strong intellectuality, at once austere and rich, robust and minute, powerful and delicate, massive in principle and curious in detail. Its chief impulse was that of order and arrangement, but an order founded upon a seeking for the inner law and truth of things, and having in view always the possibility of conscientious practice. India has been preeminently the land of the Dharma and the Shastra. She searched for the inner truth and law of each human or cosmic activity, its dharma. That found, She labored to cast into elaborate form and detailed law of arrangement its application in fact and rule of life.
The European eye is struck in Indian spiritual thought by the Buddhistic and illusionist denial of life. But in itself, that was simply one result, in one direction, of a tendency of the Indian mind which is common to all its activities, the impulse to follow each motive, each specialization of motive even, spiritual, intellectual, ethical, vital, to its extreme point and to sound its utmost possibility. It knew that without a fine excess, we cannot break down the limits which the dull temper of the normal mind opposes to knowledge and thought and experience. And it had, in seeking this point, a boundless courage and yet a sure tread.
Yet it is notable that this pursuit of the most opposite extremes never resulted in disorder. In every extreme, the Indian spirit seeks for a law in that extreme, and a rule, measure, and structure in its application.
Besides, this sounding of extremes is balanced by a still more ingrained characteristic, the synthetical tendency, so that having pushed each motive to its farthest possibility, the Indian mind returns always towards some fusion of the knowledge it has gained, and to a resulting harmony and balance in action and institution.
জগৎ শ্রেষ্ঠ ভারত জাতি নিবিড় তিমিরে আচ্ছন্ন ছিল তুমি মাতো গগন প্রান্তে অল্পে অল্পে উদয় হইতেছ তোমার স্বর্গীয় শরীরের তিমির বিনাশী আভায় উষার প্রকাশ
Mother Durga, rider on the lion, trident in hand, thy body of beauty armor clad, Mother, giver of victory, India awaits thee, eager to see the gracious form of thine. Listen, O Mother, descend upon earth, make thyself manifest in this land of India. O Mother, India awaits thee.
Mato Durge Singho Bahini Trishulo Dharini Bormo Aprito Sundaro Shorire Mato Ho Joyodayini 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 তোমার প্রতীক্ষায় ভারত রহিয়াছে, তোমার সেই মঙ্গলময়ী মূর্তি দেখিতে উৎসুক।
The mass of Indian action is still at the moment proceeding under the impress of the European motive and method. And because there is a spirit within us to which they are foreign, the action is poor in will, feeble in form, and ineffective in results. For it does not come from the roots of our being. Only in a few directions is there some clear light of self-knowledge.
It is when a greater light prevails and becomes general that we shall be able to speak, not only in prospect but in fact, of the Renaissance of India. India of the ages is not dead, nor has she spoken her last creative word. She lives and has still something to do for herself and the human peoples. And that which must seek now to awake is not an anglicized Oriental people, docile pupil of the West, and doomed to repeat the cycle of the Occident's success and failure.
But still, the ancient, immemorable Shakti, recovering her deepest self, lifting her head higher towards the supreme source of light and strength, and turning to discover the complete meaning and a vaster form of her dharma.
We do not belong to the past dawns, but to the noons of the future.